Hello, everyone, and welcome to whatever I'm going to call this. It's supposed to be a vlog, but I'm going to be talking about a movie, so it's more like a movie review. I don't know which one I'm going to go with. Vlog movie review? I don't know. But this is going to be about the fact that I watched the Warcraft movie this weekend, and a lot of people dislike it. Like, a lot of people. A lot of critics, I should say, actually. I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and I remember, I think last week, looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and there was a lot of people that hated the film with the user votes. So the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, I think a week ago was way worse than it is now. It's 83% now, which is really high, actually. Last week, I could have sworn it was much lower. The critics' review is 27%, and I have a feeling that the reason why it's so low is because of a bias that critics seem to have when it comes to video game movies. And it doesn't come out of nowhere. There's been a lot of bad video game movies. And I just have it's just a bias that people have, and it's a very similar bias to what people thought of comic book movies 15 years ago. They weren't like Spider-Man and X-Men were probably the first big named movies that finally got a little bit more credibility among movie reviewers or critics. Oh well, no, there's Batman. That used to be the exception of the rule, was Batman. I forget about Batman sometimes. I forget that Batman was made during the time period where there was a lot of shit comic book movies. There's a lot of shit, and so there was always kind of like this this bias that they had with these kinds of those kinds of movies, and it's just really strange. Just because it's a different medium that you can't base it off of, base a movie off of it. Like no one questions when someone makes a movie out of a book, but they question making a movie about a video game. You could do it. It takes a little bit more work, I think, with the video games, because there isn't much story to it. Usually, the original Warcraft barely had any, as far as in-game story was concerned. It didn't have much to go off of. There was some lore. I remember reading a book about the lore when I was like a kid playing the original Warcraft. This was also when Warcraft 2 was out, so this might have been. This was like 10 years ago, I'd want to say, and well, maybe no, this was like 15 years ago, and so the fact that it's a video game shouldn't discourage you. You should base it off of what you see in the film. What I saw in the film was somewhere, I would say like 60, like a 6 out of 10. On it. For those of you who just want to know the score that I'd give it is 6 out of 10. It's okay. It was an okay film. Had a lot of problems, but it really wasn't a bad film. Like the fact, I don't know what critics. I think it's mostly just bias with critics. But some of them probably rated it about where I did, and they were probably. I think they were more or less biased. But because they were closer to me, that makes them less biased. No, I just think there is a bias when it comes to video games being made into movies. So I just wanted to go into the characters a little bit, because there's a lot of characters. That's one of the criticisms of it. I think they handle it all right. But overall, not as well as say Marvel does. There was Lothar, played by Travis Fimmel. That was great. I liked his performance a lot. No, maybe not a lot. It was good. It was a good performance, though. I liked Lothar. Travis Filmel's also been in a series called Vikings that I really enjoy, and so it's no surprise that I liked him. A lot of the good characters. I guess I'll break it down into like who I liked and then who I disliked. I liked Garona, Medivh. I have mixed feelings about Medivh, but not in the same sense that not to say that Ben Foster didn't do a great job with Medivh. I think he did a good job with Medivh, but I would have loved to see the kind of performance we got from what was his name? The guy who played the evil wizard from Dungeons and Dragons. If we would have gotten that kind of over-the-top performance in this film, it would have been hilarious. But not great for the film overall, I think. But it would have been, it would have been so funny. I just imagine this, like, this Medivh character, you know, when he becomes a demon going, like, I just imagine that, and it's just so funny to me whenever I imagine it. I don't know why I think of Medivh as this evil diabolical. I'm gonna make this golem. I imagine that kind of over the top character when it comes to this film. But we got a fine performance from Ben Foster. Duratan was good. I'll just say overall the orcs I thought were pretty good. A lot of people, I think there was some criticism about the design of the orcs. I really don't think. I think they did a pretty good job. I think the way to look at this is go, when I was watching the film, was I distracted by the design of the orcs? And I never was. It was like, that's an orc, and then I moved on. That means they did a good job in my book. If I was to look at them going, oh, well, look at those features, and they look so big, and why do they have to look so awkward? I was actually more distracted by the armor that the soldiers were wearing, the human soldiers were wearing, because the armor was like what I imagined. It was basically World of Warcraft style. It was like I was looking for the big pauldrons and the big gloves, and you got some of that actually. They did a really, I think, but it was comical. That's the problem, though. I don't know if they were doing this for hilarity's sake, but the pauldrons were big, and the armor just made them look like. It was great for me because I was like laughing the entire time whenever I saw them walking the suits of armor. I just thought of that. I was like, God damn it. Warcraft, Blizzard, you can't get away from that. I guess you're stuck with that kind of design. Khadgar was good. Ogrim. I was not a big fan of Ogrim. Gul'dan, I think Gul'dan as the main villain was great. He'll make an appearance later. I'm sure of it. He was good. But there was a lot of bland characters. That's probably going to lead to my first criticism. Bland characters. The characters that I disliked. King Lane. He was made out of wood. He served a purpose, but I don't think it was the purpose that the film was looking for. They were looking for a big, like, king figure, but every single line of dialogue was some of the most cliche writing I've ever heard. And I could not stand King Lane. He was supposed to serve as a purpose for conflict, or being in the middle of a conflict between Lothar and Medivh. This is the time when Medivh... Spoilers at this point, because we're going to be going to spoiler territory. Because Lothar just saw the death of his son, and it was either by purpose or accident. It's not very clear in the film, but that's left to your interpretation, I suppose, of whether Medivh. Like, because Medivh was trying to block off the orcs from killing the human army, and by doing so, he created like a lightning wall, and Lothar's son got trapped on the other side, and was killed by Black Hand. And so because of that, Lothar no longer trusted Medivh. And it seems kind of silly to be like I understand that yeah, you shouldn't trust Medivh because he's kind of being possessed by a demon, and Khadgar at this point is starting to realize that, and but Lothar doesn't really have that knowledge yet. He doesn't trust Medivh anymore, and it seems like Lothar has nothing to base his, well, not nothing, I guess. He technically has some knowledge, but of Medivh's treachery from Khadgar, saying that he burnt all my research. He came in, burnt all my research, and took a book from me. And so I guess that's true. But Lothar, anyways, Lane is supposed to be in between them because Lane is friends with both Medivh and Lothar. So when Lothar defies Medivh, King Lane kind of steps in and has to be in between them. And that's his purpose, but god damn, his dialogue sucks. It sucks so bad. It's worse than Lady Taria, his wife. Lady Taria is also bad. I feel like they messed up. Like they dropped the ball on royalty. The royal family was just shit. But Khadgar was good. Durotan was good. Gul'dan was good. Black Hand was not terrible. He was just a bad guy. I was about to say he was terrible. He's not. I think I was about to say terrible because of the rant that I just did with Lane. But Orgrim doesn't know what side he's on at any given point. In fact, I think at some point I was really confused. Like, Orgrim betrays Durotan because Durotan wants to get help from the humans to defeat Gul'dan, but then Orgrim questions that motive or that move because it involves siding with the humans against orcs, and he's not comfortable with that. So he tells Gul'dan of the plan, and then he sides with Gul'dan, but then he's not on Gul'dan's side. And then later on, leads an army to kind of kill off the Frostwolf clan. While he's doing that, he goes and frees Draka, Durotan's wife. Gives her a chance, well, not frees her, but gives her a chance to run away with their child. I can't remember what the child's name was. I thought it was supposed to be Thrall, but I guess not. It's not Thrall. So I can't remember the name, but it's not Thrall. Thrall will be for another movie, I suppose. And then he frees Durotan after Durotan's been captured, realizing his mistake. Which it was like, where do you think this was going? Like, when you decided to betray Durotan and side with Gul'dan, what exactly were you expecting to happen? Be like, oh, well, you guys were almost about to betray me, but you know what? You're such a noble clan. We'll let you live. No, this was gonna happen. Orgrim just gets me angry. Anyways, enough of that. So those are the characters. I think there are six. I was about to say 5. I think it's 6. 6 characters to really focus on. You have Lothar, main character. Garona, love interest. She serves a lot more purposes, and I think she's a lot better of a character. She's not really, I guess, she's prominent in the movie, so I think you have to treat her as such. Medivh, Lanes of Wood, don't count him. Durotan is kind of the voice of reason. And Khadgar, those are the 5 characters. And then Gul'dan being the villain. That's kind of important. And so those are the 6 characters I would focus on. Now I want to move on to the criticisms because they're pretty big. There was a lot of short scenes in the film. They were broken up. They had like 5 lines of dialogue, and they're the only I couldn't see a purpose for the scene, and it really destroyed any kind of pacing the film had, and it was really bad. And even there was a lot of good build-up the film was trying to produce, and it was pretty valuable, but it would always get broken down with these choppy scenes, and it was just really bad. And I don't know whose decision it was, but that person, I don't know if they should be working on the next film. That's all I have to say. Then there were a lot of, like I said, there was a lot of bland character writing, and King Lane and Lady Taria, they royally screwed that one up, I guess. Most of that comes down to dialogue. I think the writers needed to do a better job with those characters, but not the characters. I think the actors themselves were fine. The character, which one am I looking for? What's the word? Dialogue. The dialogue needed work. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the film as well. One of them being Khadgar. He goes back to Kirintor. This is after. Okay, so Khadgar's character, I think in the original lore, was supposed to be watching over Medivh, and then he discovers that Medivh's been possessed, and then he goes and deals with that. In the film, he's like left the Kirintor. He's become kind of like an outcast. But then he goes back to the Kirintor when he realizes that Medivh needs to be stopped, and so he goes back and he's greeted very distastefully, or with disdain. The leader of the Kirintor kind of looks at him and goes, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. You've been exiled." Well, not really exiled. He's kind of left himself. But he's like, "You shouldn't come back here. What are you doing?" And he goes, "Medivh's about to destroy everything and let the orcs in. He needs to be stopped. I have this proof." And he shows him proof. And he goes, "Oh, well, in that case, let me show you our biggest secret." And it was really... It was like, if you really had that much distrust in him, wouldn't you have instead been like, "Oh, that doesn't mean anything, go away," and then tried to deal with it yourself? I don't know, it just seemed like that was very inconsistent, behavior with the leader. The other inconsistency was Lane. Again, Lane. When he, like I said, his purpose was to be in between Medivh and Lothar, and when Lothar disagrees with Lane about his plan, saying it's not going to work. His plan being, when instead of going after the portal that they're trying to make to bring in more of the orcish hordes, they are. He wants to contain them. He wants to make it basically a perimeter, keeping them out from gaining more land. And Lothar's like, "No, you need to go after them and stop them from making the portal. That's your top priority." And then Medivh comes up and says, "Nope, nope, the king's right." And so Lane agrees with that. Lothar gets really upset, gets thrown in the prison, and Lane decides to. So he's gonna set up a perimeter, right? But then he leaves Stormwind with an army and goes to the portal, when we had a whole entire scene that was devoted for him saying, "I'm not going to do that." It was very bad, inconsistent. It was very, I was so confused. How did we get to this point? I thought we weren't going to get to this point. What happened? I was very lost on that. The other inconsistency that I thought was Duratan. He once he's freed by Ogrim, after Duratan finally rescues him, Duratan challenges Gul'dan and in an honorable combat, and so they start punching each other in the face, and they do that for a while, and Duratan eventually loses because Gul'dan has to finish him quickly, and uses fell magic, and apparently that's dishonorable. And so the orcs start dismissing him, and they go, "You're no war chief. You're not the leader of us." They start walking away, but then he just kills like 3 of them or 4 orcs at the same time. Just absorbs like their essence, and then all the orcs then get in line, and the other thing. So then Lothar fights Blackhand in honorable combat, and we'll get more into that later. But Lothar wins, and he starts to leave because he won an honorable combat. And the orcs are like, "Oh, he won an honorable combat. We have to let him go now." And Gul'dan's like, "No, we're not gonna let him go. Screw that. I'm gonna kill him." And all the orcs shouted him down, and he just went, "Oh." It was very inconsistent, I felt, with that kind of thinking. Like, oh no, it's okay if you just kill a bunch of orcs, and we'll just ignore it, ignore the rules. But you can't break the rules when it's Lothar. He's the main character. So that was kind of messed up. And then, so that was a lot of the inconsistencies in it. Like I said, there was a lot of good build-up to the film, but then it kind of dropped. They dropped the ball when it came to creating something that was like any kind of ending. Like you had the two things. Was the fight with Medivh and the fight with Lothar versus Blackhand. So Khadgar and Lothar have to go back and kill Medivh, and because he's a demon, and they are fighting him. It was very strange because of the choppy wave. It was going back and forth between the Medivh fight and the battle at the portal, and the Medivh fight. It felt like whenever they got back to the Medivh fight, I was completely lost as to what was going on in the fight. Like, I could have sworn they were in different places at this time, and like then they were hiding behind the golem, and it was very inconsistent as far as like when the scene started and stopped, and like I said, a lot of the problems were because of the way they cut the movie, the way they spliced it, and basically crafted the film poorly, and so. Anyways, when Khadgar and Lothar were fighting him, there was this golem. They had the fight as well, and so they fought the golem. And in order to stop Medivh from finishing the incantation for opening the portal, they dropped the golem on him, and it killed him. And I was like, "Oh, that's how you finish him?" It's like big badass Medivh. Been doing all this really cool magic stuff, and you beat him by dropping a clay golem on him. It's lame. This is the lame ending. So it was unsatisfied. I was unsatisfied with that. And then the second one was Lothar fighting Blackhand. So Lothar hates Blackhand because Blackhand he got to witness his son's death at the hands of Blackhand. Blackhand just killed him outright. Like I said, when he was trapped, when Lothar's son was trapped because of Medivh, he got killed by Blackhand, and was shown. It was really brutal, and so Lothar has all of the motivation to defeat Blackhand, and he has to defeat him. And so you're expecting this big fight. Okay, they built this up, right? They've built up the Blackhand versus Lothar. And Lothar, they charge at each other. Lothar ducks down, swings his sword, cuts Blackhand in the junk. Blackhand goes, "Oh no, I've been cut in the junk," and then Lothar stabs him, and that's it. That's the end of the fight. That was the worst. Blackhand was a putz. He's a schmuck. He's like, this is the worst. I was so dissatisfied by that fight. And so I believe that a lot of those problems come from the movie being too long, and they weren't able to. They didn't have enough film to make drawn out fights, and so you had a lot of characters they had to introduce, and then they had a lot of stuff that they had to do, and they just didn't have time for all these good fights, and that was a problem when you've built them up. So anyways, that's my take on Warcraft, and I hope you got some insight into it. Like I said, it wasn't a bad film, it just had a lot of problems. There was some good moments in it, there were some good characters in it. I do like the decisions made for the lore or for the story. A lot of people just give it criticize it because it wasn't exactly like the lore for the games, but I really don't care about that. So overall, I think the movie was okay, but there were some really big problems. I just wanted to get them out because there were some big problems. So if you enjoyed the episode, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.